Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and here are 5 things that you can do with your HomePod. So one of the first things is to set a timer. Now, right now, it's bummer that the HomePod cannot run multiple timers at a time, but here's how you do that. You say, "Hey Siri, set a timer for 5 minutes."
5 minutes and counting.
All right, so now at the end of that 5 minutes, Siri is going to go ahead and sound an alarm, which is pretty cool. You can also say, "Hey Siri, cancel that timer."
Okay, I stopped the timer and reset it to 5 minutes.
So I'm hoping that that means that Siri will not still be sounding the timer, but we'll see. Number 2 is your ability to control smart home products. So, basically your HomePod can control things, which is pretty great, depending on how you have this set up. Now, this means that you're going to have things set up in your home. For example, if you have Philips Hue lights or if you have connected devices, you're going to be able to control them. For example, if I had one set up, I could say, "Hey Siri, turn on the lights in my master bedroom," and Siri would respond.
Okay.
So Siri can't actually turn them on because I don't have that connected. So it's funny because if I was to do that with Google, my Google Home would say that it didn't know how to do that. So Siri is turning on lights somewhere, definitely not my lights, but that's how you would do it. You can also say things like turn up the heat in at home, or maybe you have a home or an office. You can control that. You can say lock the back door if you have a control device that can work there. So all of your smart devices you can definitely work and control. So that's pretty neat. Let's move on. So you can also send text messages with HomePod. That would be the third thing. You can't make or send or receive phone calls yet. You can definitely send audio to Siri. So for example, with your phone, you can actually AirPlay the audio to your HomePod, but it wouldn't act as a microphone for talking back. It would basically just be like part of a speakerphone. It wouldn't really work out too well. But here's what I could do. I could say, hey, I could say the command and then send a message to and person's name. So let's try that. "Hey Siri, send a message to my wife."
What do you want to say?
"Tell her that I love her."
Your message to Mallory Hill says, "Tell her that I love her." Ready to send it?
No.
Okay, I won't send it just yet. Let me know when you're ready to continue.
"Hey Siri, send a message to my wife."
What do you want to say?
"I love you and miss you, period."
Your message to Mallory Hill says, "I love you and miss you." Ready to send it?
Yes.
Done.
Now, what freaks me out a little bit is that the HomePod doesn't differentiate my voice from someone else's. So as long as my phone was in a reasonable distance, and I don't even know, I might even be able to do this from anywhere, somebody could send a text message to somebody from the HomePod without me even being around. So I would recommend using this only in circumstances where you feel most secure. So you can also change Siri's voice. So you're actually going to have to do this from your phone, which is kind of a bummer, but we can try this. "Hey Siri, change your voice."
Sorry, I can't help you with that. You can change it in the Home app associated with this HomePod.
So you're going to have to go to the Home app on your phone and actually change the voice in there. But there are a couple different voices that you can choose from, just like you can choose from the Siri voices on your phone. So you can definitely change those. If perhaps maybe you don't want a female voice and you'd rather have a male's voice, you can do that. Number 5 is to set location-specific reminders. Now, I really like this because I got used to doing this on my phone, setting reminders that would remind me to do something when I was about to leave or when I needed to be somewhere. And so I could say something like, "Hey Siri, remind me to lock the door when I leave the house."
Which home address for Jared Hill?
You're definitely going to have to set this up. What's cool about this, though, is that you can set that for different HomePods. So, for example, if I have a HomePod at my office and I have a HomePod at my house, I can set that up and set those reminders. So, for example, if I wanted it to remind me to do something when I got to work, I can do that. And then when I arrived at work, it would notify me. Versus, things that you can set when you're leaving or whatnot. It uses the location of your phone and reminds you on your HomePod. So it's pretty cool. You just have to set this stuff up, and Siri isn't really that great at doing it for you, so you have to manually go and do these things. But nonetheless, when they're set up, they're definitely a lot of fun. So I wanted to give you 2 bonus things because, those things weren't super exciting, but they're definitely things that you can do with your HomePod. So obviously, the HomePod only really works best with Apple Music. But if you want to send music from any other music app to the HomePod, here's how you do it. So on the phone, on the iPhone 10, I can swipe down from the top. But on any other device, you can actually go and choose. And you can see here I've got my Apple HomePod that I can send music to. And so I can go now and choose a music app. So for example, if I went over to Spotify and decided I wanted to play some music from Spotify, I can do that. So I just need to make sure that I'm still connected. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. You can see the lights are lighting up here. And then pausing that from my phone actually will stop the playing here. So I can use Spotify with my HomePod, it's just not as easy as using Apple Music. If you have Apple Music, you can then use the verbal controls to control your HomePod versus having to AirPlay. But if you're maybe dead set on using Spotify, or you want to send audio from a YouTube video, so for example, if we go over to YouTube and we'll just do a search for a State of Tech video, and show you that you can actually send your audio over to that. So maybe you want a little bit better audio than what comes out of your phone. Here's my Apple HomePod full review. I can tap on that. And now we've got the audio coming out of the HomePod
Hey, what's up?
speaker.
It's Jared with State of Tech, and I have the HomePod here. We're going to do a review of it. We're going to talk about it. I just finished up a live stream where
So that makes the HomePod a little bit more useful, especially if you use other apps for music or other types of content that is not specifically from Apple. So the HomePod also makes it pretty simple to get news and relevant information that is current. So I could ask it something like this: "Hey Siri, play the latest news."
Here's the latest news from Fox News. You can also tell me to switch to NPR, CNN, or The Washington Post.
Hey Siri,
The
stop.
weekend's in the red on Wall.
So you can get it to play your recent news, and it also tells you that you can switch that. What is a bummer is that you can't have it kind of daisy chain a bunch of those together. So as soon as it finishes with that report, you're going to have to ask it to play the next one. But instead of just asking it to play the news and getting maybe your favorite news, you can also ask it to play the latest news on, "Hey Siri, play the latest news from NPR."
Here's the latest news from NPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington,
Hey Siri,
I'm
stop.
Lori London. Police.
So you can definitely get it to play more news options. You just have to be a little more verbal with Siri and have and tell Siri specifically what you want played. One last extra tip is that you can actually have Siri remember things for you by telling Siri to take a note. I like that because maybe you are walking around your house and you remember that you need something, you don't have your phone on you, you have it on the charger or something like that. You simply need to ask Siri to take a note for you. So, "Hey Siri, take a note for me."
What do you want it to say?
"Remind me to pick up milk from the grocery store."
Okay, I created a note. Remind me to pick up milk from the grocery store.
So that might actually be better kept as a reminder rather than a note. But if I was starting a grocery list, that would definitely be one way to do it in the notes. And then I can go over to my phone and I can actually edit that note, because that's creating a note that syncs across my iCloud and now is available in my phone. So that's going to do it. Started out as 5 tips, but I give you a couple of additional bonus HomePod tips. If you have a HomePod and you have some tips that are maybe your favorite, share them in the comment section below. If you like this video, click on subscribe. And for some more HomePod related stuff, head on over to statatech.net. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you back in the next one.